Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to the match that everyone was waiting for. Welcome to the spectacular match between Arjun Erigaisi against Magnus Carlsen from the Speed Chess Championship in 2024 that you can follow now on chess.com. And of course the match between Arjun Erigaisi and Magnus Carlsen is of course not the derby of the event. Actually what we are waiting for, will Magnus Carlsen beat now Arjun Erigaisi and meet his arch enemy in the semifinals? Will he play against Hans Niemann in the Speed Chess Championship in 2024. So if Magnus wins now his match against Arjun, he will play very an intense battle against Hans Niemann. Hans yesterday won his match against Wesley, so with a clear result, Hans is really in top shape, and already Hans in this event beat Maxim Vashilogrov, who was in my opinion one of the top favorites to win the Speed Chess Championship in 2024. And also in this other semifinals we'll have spectacular matches. Alireza Firuza is already there. He won his match against Fabiano Caruana, and in the quarterfinals we have another derby between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Hikaru Nakamura. So this tournament becomes simply one of the most legendary events of all time. So let's see now first of all one game, Arjun Erigaisi against Magnus Carlsen, and then I'm going to reveal you the news. Is Magnus finally meeting his arch enemy Hans Niemann? So in one game they played in a 5+1 game. Arjun Erigaisi opened with move d4. Magnus' response was knight to f6, c4, e6, knight to f3, d5, and after knight to c3 we have now the queen's gambit decline, 3-knight variation. We have now the move a6, which is now a tricky idea, very often played by Magnus Carlsen. It's his really main weapon sometimes in the queen's gambit decline. It's a nice flexible line which allows you in some lines like e3 to immediately play d takes c4, bishop to c4, and then b5, c5. You have already a nice expansion on this side of the board. So that's why Arjun releases the pressure in the center, trades off now the pawns, and develops with bishop to f4. Good move, because this bishop is of course immediately having some great activities all over the board, and Magnus doesn't want to tolerate this bishop. Plays now bishop to d6. Arjun takes, but now the good part for black in this particular line, although you gave up really a good piece, usually the dark square bishop in the queen's gambit decline is a much better piece, and then the light square bishop for black. Now, although as I said, Magnus gave up now his powerful bishop. Now the queen comes out with the tempo, and the good thing is also with the potential knight from b to d7, you're controlling the c5 square, but also here the e5 square with the support of the queen, so you have a nice grip on dark squares, although you gave up the dark square bishop. e3 by Arjun, trying to develop the light square bishop, bishop to d3, and now after move b6, Magnus is preparing bishop to b7, and in some lines even maybe to fix the position with rook to e8, knight to e4 to have really nice grip around the square. Carlsen by Arjun, bishop to b7, queen to c2, also in some lines maybe preparing the breakthrough idea with the move e4, knight from b to d7 by Magnus, and now rook from f to d1 by Arjun, because he wants actually maybe to prepare maybe this move e4, and then the d4 pawn could be an isolated pawn, so that's why good move I would say also so far by white. If you play here e4 immediately, then you're leaving yourself here an isolated pawn, knight to e4. It's a long-term weakness. Maybe later you can still play, but then knight to e4, bishop to e4, bishop to e4, knight to f6 again comes with the tempo. So unnecessary stuff. So that's why rook to d1, pretty solid move here by Arjun. Now rook from f to e8. Magnus is not allowing e4 moves anymore. We have a3, and now Magnus breaks the position with the move c5. D takes c5. We have b takes c5. We have now the so-called hanging pawn structure, which I'm not going to say is a weak pawn structure or something. It's really one of the most dynamic pawn structures that you can get in any middle game stage. This pawn structure can be an advantage, but can be also huge weakness in the position. I think in this position it's still sort of a flexible position where you still have opportunities maybe to break and enter with d4, c4 if necessary. Of course there are some problems on the d file, but it's really sort of a mobile pawn structure here for black. Now Arjun plays, I think, again good move b4. After b4 he's basically disconnecting the main strength of blacks here. We have now rook from a to c8 by Magnus, b takes c5, and now knight to c5, which leaves now Magnus Carlsen with the isolated d pawn. But okay, nothing to worry, I would still say, for black. Still black is having a great control here around the square, and now Arjun Erigaisi may maybe even his first mistake in the game. He played now rook from a to c1. Usually this should be a perfect move, getting the rook into the game, but the slightly better choice was to play here bishop to f1, and maybe with g3 and bishop to g2, competing maybe against this powerful bishop that could be here maybe opened with potential d4 move. And after move rook from a to c1, now Magnus shows why he is simply the best player in the world. I really love now this move. That's why I'm showing you also this game, because it shows the common ideas of isolated pawn structures. When you have the isolated pawn, then you want to push this pawn immediately. If you are playing, of course, against the isolated pawn, then you want to create sort of a blockade. You're trying to fix the structure. You are not allowing your opponent to push the pawn on d4, and that's exactly what Arjun allowed here. Magnus plays now d4 immediately. All of this this square is taken twice by the knight and also by the pawn, but now finally Magnus liberates his long diagonal for the light square bishop. If you pick up now this one with the pawn here, then bishop to f3 leads into these problems. You still can of course take the piece, but now after bishop to d1, you can maybe take out the queen and also take out this one, and in this sequence you see white would simply lose the exchange. So that's why after d4, knight to d4 here by Arjun Erigaisi, but now Magnus plays the brilliant knight to g4. Great deflection by Magnus Carlsen, deflecting the knight, decoying the knight here to the square d4, but now Magnus has an immediate checkmate threat here on h2. If you retreat, of course, then bishop to f3 followed with queen to h2. So that's why Arjun is forced now to play the move g3, and now and only now Magnus takes out now the light square bishop after queen to d3. Magnus has now great attacking chances. He forced now this move g3 just in order to provoke this light square problems, and now he finally took the piece and has now great position, much better position here for black. And Magnus says, okay, I don't want to risk anything, I'll still take also this pawn on a3, although in this position I think you can even play down a pawn because you have so many great attacking chances, maybe in some lines retreating with the bishop and then building maybe a queen and bishop battery on this diagonal. So pretty standard stuff then for black. After move queen takes d3, Magnus took the pawn. As I said, we have h3, knight to e5, hitting the queen, and now h5. Again, a great move here by Magnus, simply trying to dismantle this whole defense in front of white's king using this monstrous power of the light square bishop. King to f1, Arjun is trying to escape. Magnus pushes now also the passer here on the a file, which is also, when we watch now a potential fully endgame stage when there are simply no pieces on the board, it's also something that bothers now the white in the continuation of the game. a5, queen to b3, Arjun is forcing now a simplification. Maybe here knight to b5 was better, forcing then maybe black to retreat. But here after queen to b3, Magnus says, okay, maybe I'll not try to deliver some checkmates here, but at least I have this line, bishop to a6, Magnus simply took, and he activates now the knight on d3. Still a much better position here for black, although the queens are off the board. Maybe the position is not so dangerous anymore to play, but still there is this passer, as I said, a very good game here for black. Rook to c2, Magnus delivers a new check, again tries this stuff, again plays now rook to c7, is trying also to put more pressure against this, we have to say, overloaded knight on c3. If you move something, then of course you could lose also the rook on the c file. We have a knight to d4 by Arjun, we have a rook to c8, putting more pressure against this piece, and now knight from d to e2. You see Arjun is simply forced now to play only passive moves. Here white is simply on the defensive side. Here the game is really one-way ticket in black's favor. Knight to b4 by Magnus, every move is now a simple threat against white's position. Here, even if you play rook to c1, even if you retreat, then we play calm g6, then again something like this, and maybe delivering a check, and you can always, I would say, give up the rook here for two minor pieces, knight to c3, rook to c3, connect of course again the rook to the knight, and a much better position again here for black. Okay, after knight to b4, Arjun tried this one, rook to d2. Now Magnus again takes a similar position, will reach. Arjun delivers a check, tries of course to attack the pawn. Here Magnus protects it, and now after move rook to a7, Magnus plays a beautiful a4, allows here Arjun to take, but now he plays the fork. Now Arjun plays the only defensive move that prolongs the game, rook to a3, but this comes with a beautiful check, bishop to d5. Notice that Magnus sees all of this in a 5+1 game, a very impressive performance by the strongest chess player in the world. He plays now this check, gets now the rook, and has now of course a position where he has the knight for a pawn. This now completely winning endgame here for black. But okay, Arjun battled here, Magnus retreats, connects now also the knight to the pawn. We have king to f3, rook to c4, getting the king closer. Again, a good move here by Magnus, nice centralizing move. What Magnus is basically trying to do is maybe to play something like f5, then get the rook here on the second rank, and maybe in some lines deliver checkmate. But okay, after rook to a6, Arjun is still battling. Now he is covering finally the second rank. King to h6, we have now king to b2, rook to b2, g5, and after move rook to a2, now Magnus plays a beautiful g4, and this was game over here for white. After h takes g4 and h takes g4, in this position Arjun Erigaisi resigned. So what's the issue? If you play something like this, then you get knight to c3, discover the attack, and you lose the piece. If you play here king to g2, if you retreat with the king, then the issue is black will play on a simple maneuver, knight to g5, knight to f3, fixing then the knight around the square, getting also the king closer, connecting it maybe here to this pawn, and then you go behind, and even in some lines you can deliver checkmate. White would be always forced to cover then the first or second rank loss game here for sure for Arjun Erigaisi. And okay, this was one winning game, and I have to say Magnus won the quarterfinals against Arjun Erigaisi with a +3 result in their match, and is meeting now Hans Moke Niemann in the semifinals of the Speed Chess Championship in 2023. I'm not sure if they're going to even play. I'm not going to predict anything, but if they play this, it will be epic. I would say it will be incredible. I think, as I mentioned yesterday, the world would be shaking for sure. Very a match that I think many of us are waiting for, especially Hans. When I watch now his game, he played incredible chess. Maybe Hans is not so good in classical time format chess, but he is a part of this new generation when they're basically started to play chess online, and they're playing many blitz bullet games. Great reactions yesterday he had against Wesley, so he saw many tactical patterns in a very fast time. So it was really incredible how he played against Wesley. As I said, Hans also won his game against MVL. Now he's meeting Magnus, and I'm not sure what to say, but this will be incredible for sure. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas here by Magnus, especially in the Queen's Gambit decline, especially how to play with the isolated D pawn. Great again game by Magnus Carlsen for sure. So if you want to see some other games that we have covered here on my YouTube chess channel from this event, check out our coverage. Here are some games that we have analyzed before, and if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.